talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
And greetings and salutations, everyone. Happy middle of December. You have tuned into Dr. Judy WTF right here on the UBN Radio Network. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, as usual, and we've got an amazing show as usual. We're going to talk about giving today, the gift of giving, since we figured it was just a little bit before Christmas and Christmas. And, of course, this is a call-in show, so if you want to talk about giving and get on the couch with Dr. Judy, feel free. The number is area code 323-843-2826. And we have a little surprising Christmas song that we're going to shrink, since we shrink that tune as part of our show at the end. And those of you that have listened for a while know you can pull us on Stitcher and iTunes, and, of course, here at UBN Radio Network. So we thought we'd finish the year, since the next couple days, a couple shows are holidays, with giving. So we're going to give it all we've got.
And we're going to summarize a lot of the themes that have been spoken about over the last many months, because in the giving has been a journey from through to. For us, it's been a journey from through to. And for those of you who are familiar, I created a mind map for healing human disconnect. And
those of you that are listening online, listening through podcast, you can pull it online at drjudywtf.com.
And so really what we want to really share with you this particular episode is how giving actually allows us to be more giving, because we're exercising a muscle that will be expansive. And it's only through giving that we expand our ability to do more of it. And I think when people taste what it's like to be a giver, it's kind of contagious. I used to do a lot of volunteering over at the homeless shelter down on San Julian, and there was a very, very beautiful quality when you know that you're making a difference to another human being's life, and especially when that human being is really, really in need of such a basic element like food, and you're sharing food with that person, knowing that, just like Maslow says, if your basic needs are not met,
hierarchy of needs,
you can't really go any further than that. You know, try getting a job when you wake up hungry. It doesn't happen. Try having a relationship when your belly is growling for food. It doesn't happen. So I think that when we're in a position to be giving, we're very fortunate because we have what to give. And a lot of what we've been speaking about over the past many, many months is the idea that when we have taken the goodies of the emotional supplies that we need as infants, then we're in a better position to be givers. And those emotional supplies that we all need to be healthy human beings are touch, eye contact, breastfeeding, consistency. And so those of us who have been lucky enough to have had parents who were able to give to us are probably more in a position to be even more giving, because we were the people who got. And for those of you who expanded beyond not having gotten and give anyway, I really want to acknowledge you, because that's very, very special when you've expanded yourself that far.
Yes, and actually, a little line here: when it comes to giving back, everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've talked a little bit about this before, a little bit, and I mentioned, it's better to give and to get as opposed to get to give. You get more when you give. I mean, we can talk about karma, but it's better to give and then you'll get more back than just expecting to get and then give. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. But, when we give, we get. Okay, so did you know that kinder people actually live longer and healthier lives? And people who volunteer tend to experience fewer aches and pains, and giving to others helps really improve one's overall health. People that are over 55, for example, that do a lot of volunteering and giving to the community, they actually have a 44% likelihood of not dying. They're more healthy, less stress, less depressed, and they do well. And we're going to talk more about this.
My parents were wonderful volunteers. They did die young for different reasons, but they were volunteers over at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in the emergency room. And I always got such interesting stories, and they were so full of life and so much looking forward to the days that they went there to volunteer. And it really enhanced their life,
Sure.
particularly because at a certain point they were retired. And it was very, very joyful for them
My father
to do
was
that act.
My father was a physician, and he donated one day a month to the Union Rescue Mission, which is one of the larger shelters and missions down in downtown Los Angeles. And he would,
as a matter of
he said he would
fact-
always see the same people over and over again and give them prescriptions. But
As a matter of fact, I'd like to take that on, Walt. I'd like to take that on with you and create a day where you and I do something for the community that we agree on. And for those of you who live in the LA area, why don't you come join us there?
yeah, we'll
And
we'll let you
let's
know.
create that by the
Yeah.
next episode,
Let's do it.
okay?
Okay,
And
let's do it.
we'll meet the community there. And hopefully some of the people that are listening are in LA, and come join us and feel what it's like to give, not just talk about it.
Right. And we're going to talk about some suggestions on what you can do, even if you have just a little bit of time. And it's really in giving, a lot of times it's called the helper's high. Half the participants who did that, they felt stronger and more energetic after helping others, and many also felt calmer and less depressed. And importantly is they had an increased feeling of more self-worth. So it's interesting. And, being kind and giving back really does make us happy. And again, reduces symptoms of depression and lowers anxiety. So there's a lot of medicinal benefits to giving.
And our theme always is healing human disconnect. So when we give, we're actually healing human disconnect because we're reaching out to another human being and
We are
fulfilling on something.
And I'm going to touch on that real quick second. But even children, teens specifically, that actually go and donate and give, they are 3 times happier than those who lack such altruistic motivations. And they're happier, more active, involved, excited, and more engaged in life. So as far as giving, what I thought for fun, since we really do talk about healing human disconnect, which is sort of the basis of our show, I thought we would talk about human connection, which is 7 reasons why we should be giving more hugs. It's a holiday season. We're going to be hanging around family and friends and probably hugging each other a little bit more, which I'm always good for. And whether you're wrapped up in your arms and your partner greeting a friend hello, hugs have a way of making us feel warm and fuzzy inside. It makes us feel protected and loved, and of course improves our well-being. So I thought we'd touch on, just for fun here, about giving, something we can all do to give hugs, right?
And they're free.
And they are very free, right? So the first one is they make us feel good. There's an oxytocin, who is also known as the cuddle hormone. When it's released, it improves our feeling of devotion, trust, and bonding. Second, more hugs equal lower blood pressure. Again, it improves physical health. Our skin activates pressure receptors that actually help and lower our blood pressure.
And this goes back to attachment theory, which is the basis for healing human disconnect, which begins with mother-infant disconnect and father-infant disconnect and just being disconnected from family in general. And so when we are touched, which hugs bring back, of course, hugs bring back that primitive place that that touches the primitive brain, which is that amygdala, that whole area that gets injured when we're disconnected from. And so we're still babies. We still need the same ingredients, and they still have that same effect of lowering the blood pressure, of calming the nerves, of allowing us to to be more resilient to the stressors of life. And there's a lot of research around this to show that when we are given these basic ingredients, it's not just a psychological phenomenon. It's a physiological phenomenon, because the brain develops in a correct way, and the brain develops pathways that then turn into healthy pathways that regulate us all the way through our childhood, adolescence, and into our adult life.
Actually, I can put proof because number 7, you're getting way ahead of me, doctor.
I'm sorry, Walt. Sorry.
Well-hugged babies are less stressed as adults. There's a link between touch and relieving stress. So there is definitely a combination of nature and nurture here.
You know,
and
and
so that's one of the 7 benefits of hugging is, right, babies are less stressed as adults.
And, you know, Walt, we have talked about this a lot, but I do a lot of work with what I call incubator babies. And this is my population of patients who were placed in incubators and through
They're
no fault. Preemies. And some of the preemies did not receive breastfeeding. They did not receive that
Right, they're just
that skin
they
to
weren't
skin.
strong enough or big enough to do
Right,
that.
they did not receive the skin-to-skin contact, and as a result, later on in life, they develop symptoms such as anxiety, depression, and then they use defense mechanisms. Some of them use overeating as a defense mechanism, or alcoholism as a defense mechanism to fill that hole in the soul. And so it always goes back to this sense of being contained, of being soothed, of being attuned to. And so if you're parents, the number one thing that you could be giving your children is you, your time, your attention, your hugs, your presence.
Well, you know, that's how children spells love, and we've mentioned on the show before.
Mm-hmm.
Children spell love, Time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And we talked about it last show. We talked about how, for those of you who don't have huge Christmas funds and gobs of money to spend on toys, take the day off. Spend the time with your children, your children, and you'll be surprised how appreciative they'll be just to watch a movie with you, or take a walk with you at the beach, or anything that you want to do with your children is very fine with them.
It is. They're cool with it.
Right.
Because they're with mom and dad, and
Yes.
they'll remember it. It'll be, and maybe start a tradition.
And don't forget to leave your cell phone in your pocket.
That's it.
Or better, in your car.
That's it.
Don't take it out.
That's it. Third is, or now fourth is, hugs actually may alleviate our fears. In study on fears and self-esteem, hugs and touching significantly reduces worry of mortality and any of our existential fears. And in an object, even hugging a teddy bear has sometimes the same effect.
Is that why you hug your teddy bear so much?
Oh, you found out I have this gigantic teddy bear.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Yep. They hug, yeah. But they kind of don't hug back, but it's okay.
Yeah, but doesn't matter because they lower your blood pressure.
Yes.
It's you're hugging them
Yes.
that counts,
That's
right?
Yeah. Yes. It takes 2, though.
And isn't it interesting that children always have some kind of a transitional object in their crib or around them, because it's really important for them to have that contact. And these little toys have eyes, right? They have human features, and we all know that babies, when you put these mobiles in the baby's
Right.
cribs,
Right.
they're most attracted to the ones with faces on them. Of course, the bright colored ones are very interesting, and then the different shapes. But if you put a face with a smiley face, they'll be very attracted to that. It's almost like we're wired. We're wired to
Connect.
Yes, we're wired to connect.
Wired to connect.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yes.
We did that show earlier this year about that. Hugging can also be good for our hearts, as we mentioned. Participants who didn't have any contact with their partners developed a quickened heart rate of 10 beats per minute compared with 5 beats per minute among difference among those that got a hug from their partners during the experiment. So it even lowered your
By 5
heart rate.
beats per minute. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, 10 to 5, 10 higher or 5 lower. Yeah, that's a big difference. And lastly, all adults can benefit from hugging the most. Hugging and physical touch becomes increasingly important with age. The older you are, the more fragile you are physically. So contact becomes increasingly important for good health. By hugging someone, we instantly feel closer to that person and decrease our fears of loneliness, which we did a couple of shows, not just a few shows back, on loneliness. And if you're interested in that, you can check us out. So that's hugging really is a wonderful thing to do for the hugger and the huggee.
And I think that around this time of year, people tend to hug more because
Yes.
we're celebrating and we're around family. We're saying hello to lots of people, maybe that we haven't seen in a long time. And so I think people not only go to these parties for the food and the drinks and the dancing, they're going there to be touched.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are. So you know what? There's another benefits of giving and why it's beneficial. We're going to talk about that. And holiday shopping can be terrifying, but research suggests that it's worth it. New studies have attest that the benefits of giving, not just the recipients, but for the givers, improve their health, happiness, and their strength for the entire communities. So it really does pay to give, right? Everybody wins. So first off, giving makes us happy. Right? We always love to see open that gift. My joke is always, well, hurry up and open it. I want to see what I got you. By giving money to someone else lifted the participants and happiness more than spending it on themselves. So even if you have to do that, it's worth it. And again, it activates regions of our brain that connected with pleasure, social connection, and trust, and we have that warm glow effect.
And I was just also thinking that a lot of times we live our lives at the effect of. My book, which will be coming out, called Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, is about being the cause. And so I want to talk about giving in the context of being the cause. Because when we're always taking, we're kind of at the effect of. I mean, not that that's not a wonderful feeling in and of itself, but when we're givers, we're in this position of the have. We're the have, not the have not. So we're the cause. We're the cause of somebody's receive, right? And maybe
Yes.
somebody's appreciation.
But when we give,
right.
we also benefit as well. So it's not just a one-way thing.
No, it's not a one-way thing. And one of the things we spoke about earlier is giving is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And sometimes there are people, as you know, and as I know in my practice, who give too much, right?
Yes.
And so let's make a distinction here between being a giver and giving to the point where you're being vampired out. Are we getting a call in?
Not yet.
No? Okay.
Just checking something.
Okay, and please do call in.
And
We
this is a
love
call-in show,
call-ins.
right? I mean, if you've got a story to give us,
Yes.
call in. The number is area code 323-843-2826. And you know what? You can also, if you have a request for a tune for us to shrink, or you want to tell us something that you don't want to be very anonymous, you can just write us info@drjudywtf.com, and we read everything that comes in.
Right. So if you have an opportunity, just put the mind map up there, and for those of you who are viewing this, you could see that when we've been compromised by being emotionally injured in the first few years of life, then it compromises our self-esteem. And when our self-esteem is compromised, then everything gets compromised, and we're at the effect of, and we tend not to be as big a giver as when we're feeling whole and complete. So part of our responsibility to ourselves and to the community is to fill up the vessel of who we are. And I have a term for that. It's called the big I, which is the whole and complete I, versus the little I, who we are as a reduced sense of self. And when we get overshadowed by injuries from the first few years of life, it reduces the sense of our being, and so we're then at that effect of, and we're not the cause of. And so in order to be that giver, we have to be fulfilled ourselves. So this year, and into the next year, take responsibility to fill up your own vessel. And by that I mean nurture yourself, nourish yourself, pay attention to the food that you eat, pay attention to the exercise that you bring into your routine. And all of this will make you that full tank of who you want to
It's
to
true
be.
because it's the saying is biblically, love others as yourself. If you don't love yourself, then it's kind of hard to love other people.
And it's hard to give when you're an empty tank.
And it's hard to give when you're empty.
Yeah,
Exactly.
when you're tired, when you're depressed, tends to make people cranky and angry, and it's just really, really hard to say, hey, I've got this extra energy, don't know what to do with it. Think I'll make sandwiches for the homeless, or I think I'll go visit some children in hospital who maybe don't have family to visit them. It's just really hard to reach in there. And so this year, think about dedicating yourself to filling up so that you can have a sense of fulfillment and you have a tank to be giving from.
And drawing from, right.
Drawing
and from
yes.
then, of course, for example, it's like a cup, right?
Right.
A cup isn't going to overflow until it's full.
Yes. Right.
And if we're completely empty, we really don't have much to give, and it might even drain us because we're so empty, even though in many instances it won't. So, secondly, giving is, as I talked about, it's good for our health. A wide range of research is linked to this. Even among the sick and elderly, if they give, they are feeling better. As I said, we're 44% less likely to die over a 5-year period when we volunteer than not. And what do I mean by volunteering? One study I read says give 100 hours a year, which is a couple hours a week. Another said 200 hours a year, which is 4 hours a week. So it really doesn't take a whole lot to give. I mean, you can budget your time and give, and we're going to talk about some ideas where to give in a few minutes. Giving promotes cooperation and social connection, right?
Yes.
Your generosity is likely to be rewarded by others down the line because, hey, if you give back, then and you're giving to the community, it again talks about sense of trust and cooperation. And it not only makes us feel closer, we also feel closer to those we're helping as well.
Right, building community.
And definitely building
Right.
the community and giving back to the community.
This last few months, I put myself through this course for yoga certification training, and one of the principles of developing this yoga practice is giving to the community. So we all met at a temple, and to me it was phenomenal because there were people of all religious denominations there. And what were they doing? They were bagging food. And this particular temple feeds thousands and thousands of people every year. And there were so many people down there. I was really shocked at the amount of people, and the amount of food was phenomenal. It was just like going to this huge supermarket and seeing cans and containers and just anything that you could imagine. And the people just couldn't stuff the stuff fast enough. And I just kept thinking to myself, wow, if we all get on the same page, if we all get together as a community and haul ass and put our energy behind it, we could be really a source for many, many, many people.
And have an impact, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Giving also invokes gratitude. And those of you who follow, for example, law of attraction, gratitude is huge. If you're gracious and have a major attitude of gratitude for what you have, chances are you're going to get more, and that means you'll be able to give more.
Well, I've been very, very grateful, first of all, for you, Walt. I just want to say that up front on air. So grateful to be here with you. I can't do this myself because, believe it or not, I need the eye contact and I need the stimulation and the camaraderie. I just couldn't see myself planted in front of the camera without the fun and the joy and the interesting aspect of kicking ideas back and forth between you. And so I'm very grateful. And also to Tony Sweet, who organized and owns you.
Put the station together.
Yeah, a phenomenal job. And we had the pleasure of celebrating his birthday and meeting all the people who have other wonderful radio shows. So I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude.
Yeah, it says this station's a great one to be at.
Yes.
And likewise, Judy, I couldn't do it without you. After all, it's Dr. Judy WTF, which, of course, those of you who are new, it stands for What the Freud. And if you're just tuning in, you're tuning in to Dr. Judy WTF, which is of What the Freud. And you can find us on Stitcher as well as iTunes, of course, here at UBN as well. We're here every Thursday at 8 o'clock Pacific. We are looking for sponsors and are trying to expand the show because the response has been terrific, and really appreciate all you loyal listeners. We really do.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I want to say same. Thank you so much. I appreciate every one of you who tunes in and listens and writes letters to us, and sometimes shows up at my office, or I get to meet you over the phone and do phone therapy. And for those of you who don't know, I do mind map therapy over the phone, where I map out the wound of childhood, the reaction to the wound and the encoding of it, and then we dismantle that and do a lot of work around paradigm shifting people into health and well-being. And that's been a real joy for me.
And there are two offices. There is one in Sherman Oaks and one in Beverly Hills.
Right near the Beverly Hills High School.
Right down the street from Beverly Hills High, 90120. Right?
90210.
Oh, 20, okay.
90210. You know,
Okay.
like that show?
Well, yes, that was the joke.
Oh.
And lastly, giving is contagious, right? It spur a ripple effect of generosity through the community. So there's more to giving than I even thought. Even though it's we all should do it, right? And there's more. There's people who feel that they're too busy to give, and we all are frantically busy these days more than ever. Some research has shown that if you give time, somehow you end up with more time. People who were assigned, for example, either to spend 10 minutes doing something for themselves that wasn't already planned to do today, or they spent 30 minutes doing something for someone else they weren't planning to do. The results were similar. Spending time on others seemed to expand the future in contrast to spending time on oneself. And there's a bunch of studies that elaborate on that.
And with the internet, a lot of times we talk about how it's such a disconnect, but sometimes it's a connect too. We could use it any way we want, I suppose. And so we could use the internet to quickly order a bunch of flowers for somebody, voila, there they are, flowers.com or whatever it is, and somebody could be surprised tomorrow. Or you could use it to buy airline tickets and show up on your relative's doorstep, or plan a vacation with someone that you haven't seen and just spend time. And giving doesn't have to be a big thing.
No,
it could be a little thing, a real little thing.
That ripple is huge.
It could be as simple as, I go to Taekwondo once a week, and there's this little older lady that sits there. Every time I come out of my practice, she says, "So, was it really difficult?" And I say, it doesn't change. It's always hard, and it just doesn't change. And I say to her, why don't you join me? Come and, do a little workout with me. She says, "Oh, no, I'm too old." But, she just loves when I hang around and sit down next to her. And a lot of times I'm busy going somewhere. But I realize that it just means a lot for her to, have that 10-minute conversation. So big deal. I'll get to my, my evening 10 minutes later. I'll do that errand 10 minutes later, but I could just see how much she just likes to hang out. And it means a lot to me to make even a little difference in somebody else's life. So it seems so insignificant, but,
to her it's not.
To her, it's not.
Yeah, to her
Right.
it's not. They talk about time famine, which was a phrase I'd never heard. Increasing feelings of time affluence, perceived as time famine. The research demonstrates that spending time on others makes people feel like they have done a lot with their time. And the more they feel they have done with their time, the more they feel they have time. So it's kind of interesting. People who spend time on others might feel less time constrained and better able to complete their myriad of tasks and responsibilities. In short, when individuals feel time constrained, they should become more generous with their time despite their inclination to be less so.
Right. So you have to push back, right? Is what you're saying, is you've got to carve it out. If time is really restricting your life, then you just push up against it and you expand it back so you have more time.
Right. And again, there's that helper's high and that natural high that we get from giving, which you know, it's the very is very important. Some of the things that you can do to volunteer is you can lend a helping hand to a friend or a neighbor. You can care for a pet at an animal shelter. You can help food at a food pantry. You can serve food for the homeless, which is what Judy talked about, especially this time of year. You can be a tutor or teach a child something, whether it be simple as to read or maybe their math. You can host a foreign exchange student. That way, you know, you're helping and giving back, and you're not lonely. And you can donate money in the needs of goods. Of course, you can do that as well.
And don't forget the elderly, because they really,
elderly
really
need it a lot.
love touch, and they're the, you know, in some instances they're the throwaway society, because a lot of people don't have time, and especially when you're old and you suffer from Alzheimer's and you're not as interesting as you used to be, or you're not as giving as you used to be. You know, people don't want to naturally gravitate toward that, and so it takes a lot for a human being to say, you know, I'm going to see that person anyway, even though they don't have all of their mental faculties. I'm still going to be there and sit with them, just to sit with them and hold their hands.
Probably is the highlight of their whole week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting reading stuff. We've talked in the future of, for example, when you're lonely, go to Meetup, MEETUP.com. And I even talked about how there's volunteers. I said, if you want to find something to do, and it's all there. Meetup has even groups that will help you volunteer for things that are interested to you. So there's a plethora of options in that regard. It just takes you a little time to investigate and check out a few groups of people that are like-minded, and thereby, you know, you've got a common cause. You've got, you know, it's already been pre-set up, you know, and you just go and participate and give what you do. Maybe it's once a month. Maybe it's a couple times a month. Maybe you go every other month, whatever you can contribute. And I'm sure everybody that's in that group appreciates it, as well as, of course, the benefactors of what you're giving.
And
so
you know,
Meetup is a great resource.
And you know, there's another aspect to giving, which is creating abundance. And some of the biggest givers, I just got a really great email from Wynn Claybach, one of the owners of Paul Mitchell, the school, and he was so wonderful of a support to me. He hosted me on his master's audio, and we did an amazing interview, which you were so gracious to accompany to, called Therapy.
Therapy.
Right, and Wynn is one of the biggest givers that I know of, and he creates these amazing events with John Paul DiGiorgio, and they are involved in so many charity organizations, and they are very, very wealthy people.
Yes, they
and
are.
Yet, what do they choose to do with their time? They choose to put on these huge events that give back to the community. And when they
in a big way.
In a huge way.
In a big way.
In a huge way. And so I think that the universe, if you will, really, really loves people who give back into the human race and supports them.
Absolutely.
And,
I mean, Paul Mitchell, I was just reading his story. He started, and he lived in his car.
Yeah, he did.
And
he's dead, by the way.
Yeah.
Paul Mitchell died back in the 80s.
And they were so poor, and they when they started, they didn't have money to for graphics for their product. And
Right.
so that's why it's still black and white.
Yeah. Right.
Which was interesting because in contrast, it was a contrast to all of the other products that were on the shelf. So it actually worked out in their favor, but that wasn't their original intention. They didn't have
it
any
looks
money.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right.
Yeah. So, but they give back millions of dollars to,
Yes, they
to
do.
a number of charities. We went to one last year.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
And Magic Johnson and Fran Drescher was there, and they have people's stories of the benefactors of giving, and it was
It was
amazing.
called the fundraiser.
That's what. Yes. FUN Razor, yes, it was.
Fundraiser,
Yeah,
right?
fundraiser.
Right.
Yeah, it was. That was fun.
And it was fun. Right.
Yeah. So, how about some more reasons to volunteer? You need some more? Okay, we're going to give you a few more. And again, if you're just tuning in, call in if you have some ideas or some ways that you've benefacted from volunteering and giving. Our phone number is area code 323-843-2826. You can get on the couch and join the fun here on the show.
And, if any of you have an idea as to a favorite organization where you'd like to meet up, let's create a meetup and do something. That which I mentioned earlier. Walt, let's take this on. Let's do something around this holiday season and invite our audience. So if anybody has an idea of an organization that's doing something especially wonderful, and you'd like us to come and participate.
Yeah, we'd
and
love to.
We could talk about our favorite subject,
Yeah.
which is healing human disconnect.
That's absolutely right. And
Right.
You just contact us at info, I-N-F-O, at Dr. Judy, Judy, WTF.com, Dr. Judy WTF. And we'll get in contact you in short order and make it
And show up.
happen. Yeah,
Right.
well, what's half of success is showing up anyway, but definitely show up. Yep. More reasons to volunteer. One is you develop a new skill. Maybe you want to gain some skills or knowledge and expertise, and of course add that to your resume. Well, if you volunteer somewhere, then obviously you learn a skill, learn something, and that would even be more beneficial for you as well as, of course, the entity you're helping. Second is make more social connections. Loneliness and boredom among retirees and students and people who come to a new city. Well, instead of social isolation, get involved in the community, get involved in volunteering, and you'll have more friends you know what to do with. Third is give back to community. Everyone's rich or poor takes from society, so it's always a good thing to give back. Right? Develop and grow as a person. Volunteering as an excellent way to explore your likes and dislikes. If you're interested in a new career, volunteer in that field and see if you really
That's
actually
a
like it.
brilliant
Yeah, I thought that was pretty
idea.
cool. You
Yeah.
may find you totally unrelated field is much better fit for you than the one you thought. But you'll never know unless you hadn't volunteered in it first.
I work with people who are trying to understand what their career path is. And one of the things that I suggest for them to do is to spend time in that particular field. And just take, as you said, a short block of time and volunteer and interview people and find out why they love to do what they're doing, and see if you would enjoy it as much as they're enjoying it. And you'll learn a heck of a lot, and you will
Absolutely.
maybe either spare yourself
Absolutely.
going down the wrong track that doesn't have a lot of light for you, or you'll fall in love with that particular line of work and expand into it. And it's harmless. You can't get fired.
Absolutely, you can't.
Right.
And you know what? If you're interested in that field and you find somebody that is looking for somebody, you're already there making contacts. It may pan out, right? And that's how it's supposed to work, and it does work.
Yeah, it does.
It does work. You gain a new perspective. Life can be hard when you're feeling down and your problems can seem very insurmountable. Volunteering can offer you a new perspective. Seeing people who are worse off than you, yet still hanging in there, can help you see that your life in a whole new light. And we're not stating and implying that I'm better than they are. It's just that, hey, they're in a different place, and it's again just a way to look at it differently. Know that you're needed, right? Feeling needed and appreciated is important, and you may not get that appreciation from your paid work. So just how much are you truly needed? Well, try volunteering.
Right. And I think that I know this is true for me. Sometimes I don't understand the impact I have on another human being just because I'm so busy doing what I'm doing. And oftentimes I don't know how I've affected that person's life. And sometimes I'm shocked to know. And so I'll get a phone call, or I'll get a letter, or I'll get some kind of card as an acknowledgement. And so for those of you who are getting, it means the world to the giver. Whether that giver is a service person, whether that giver is your, any person in your life that gives to you, your parents, your children, your the people that you work with. It's just so vital to acknowledge the person who's giving to you.
Absolutely.
It is a two-way street. People don't necessarily give to get, but I'll tell you, when you are acknowledged for the give that you give by the people who are getting, and they're acknowledging how much they're benefiting from your services or your kindness or whatever it is, it makes a huge, huge difference.
My brother is a personal chef, and once a week he actually volunteers at a church in Hollywood.
Wow.
And feeds over 400 people.
I didn't know that, Walt. I learned something about your family every day. Yeah.
And he cooks for, he does these huge recipes for 400 people. And they get stuff, and they got to figure out what to do with it, how to cook it.
And I can't even figure out what to have for lunch. I should
Yeah,
talk to your brother.
Cook for one.
Yeah, cook for one.
Right, he's cooking for 400 at least.
Seriously.
This gigantic kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they feed, over 400 people a meal. So it's...
Where is this?
Hollywood Press, Hollywood First Presbyterian Church, just up the street on Gower, up here from Sunset Gower Studios.
Wow.
Gower and the Holly 101 freeway.
So what's his favorite recipe?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
You don't know?
It's different every week. So don't know. Couldn't tell you. He does a lot on his own. He's got some rubs, and he does beef and stuff. But I couldn't tell you in terms of that. I have to ask him over the holidays. So and let's see. Lastly, of course, it boosts your self-esteem, which we all could use, right? More volunteers experience a sense of increased self-esteem and greater self-worth. Helping others makes you feel good about yourself because you're doing something that they can't do for themselves.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, volunteering is mutually beneficial, right? We're more satisfied in life and less prone to depression, volunteer. Most of the neighborhood institutions like museums, fire departments, schools, hospitals, they need some help. They all need help, right? Especially today with all the budget cuts, right?
Right.
So, to find something that suits you, the person suggests, is there a change in the world that you want to see? These are some questions you could ask. What cause do I care about, and what organizations represent that? What do I want to do with my time, and do I want to use my time skills to learn something new, which we just talked about? And who do I want to be with? And lastly, what's my availability? Because obviously, time is precious. And, there's three things we can do with time, folks. I don't know if you do this. It's like money. You can invest it, you can spend it, or you can waste it. The only difference with time and money is that once the time's gone, you can't get it back. So, think about now, maybe in the early years with your time and, hey, am I investing in somebody? Am I investing in something? Am I investing in a skill? Am I spending it, doing something? Or am I just sitting on a log, sitting on the couch, watching something on TV and wasting it, right? I mean, life's out meant to be lived. And sure, we need some downtime, and us guys like to go in our cave. But, think about time really is money. And what are you doing with your time? Not really to make money, but treat it as money, because once it's spent, once it's wasted, once it's invested, it's gone. Embrace the holiday spirit. Get in the holiday spirit. Sponsor a holiday food drive. Or, if it's Thanksgiving, go work at a soup kitchen. Spread cheer by visiting a nursing home or answering letters from Santa from disadvantaged children. Helping people stay warm and keep clothed during the winter is obviously something we can all do, right? And if you get bored, get your friends involved. There's a thing here, drop in and decorate event where you bake a batch of cookies. So you invite your friends over. You bake a big batch of cookies, and it's not really about the cookies. It's just about
you're thinking
decorating
of them.
and then you can donate them in shelter and food pantries, and they have a little bit of joy in a cookie. Right? Who doesn't like a cookie?
And one of my favorite ways of giving is I love to go through my house and look at articles of clothing that I haven't worn in a long time. And every time I look at one of those articles of clothing, I think, that's not fair. It's just sitting there. I haven't worn this thing for a year, and somebody could be really enjoying it. And so it's looking at these objects with a consciousness of, it doesn't belong to me anymore because I'm not wearing it anymore. I'm not making use of it. It's just literally taking up space. And so being that I love a lot of space and organization,
Yes,
I
you
just
do.
don't like a lot of clutter at all. It's
Yeah,
just not
yes,
my
you do.
thing at all.
Yeah.
I love to pull things out from my shelf, and then I'll put it in a pile, and I'll give some to friends, or I'll give some to even patients of mine who may really need these items, or I'll just give it to people who work for me, or I'll call Helping Hands for the Blind or the Salvation Army, drop it off. And it just feels really great because that thing that's been dead in my closet is now somebody's wow.
Well, you're better. You're better than I, Judy, because I only pull stuff out of my closet that I can't. It is either frayed or worn out, or I don't fit into it anymore. So good for you. And the Salvation Army is a great organization. I've had interactions with some of the executive vice presidents, and specifically, and they're quality folks, and it really is a quality organization. And you know what? You might even want to look for that little red bucket and there are not that many bells ringing anymore, and to give the Salvation Army. They're a great, amazing organization, and obviously this time of year is their primary time to give. So, and don't forget about everyday actions. If you're not a joiner, go and clean out somebody's pantry and clean out your pantry, as Judy was saying, and donate the goods. That doesn't involve anybody. You found somebody to benefit more from something that you have, or rake leaves or shovel snow for the elderly neighbor. Things, or do things that your family teaches
Or an
your
errand.
children.
Or an errand.
Run an errand.
Yeah.
Right. Take them shopping.
Right.
Right. And again, anything you want to do with a bunch of people who work in teams, check out Meetup. It's an amazing resource. Or you can cheer from the sidelines, right? It's an idea to, for example, if there's a walk, like there's always walks around here for cancer or for breast cancer or for AIDS or something. You can go help behind the scenes, whether you can volunteer to give water or help people sign up or register the athletes. So, that's giving and you're participating, but you're not really in the limelight. But, it's a one-time event, maybe on an annual basis, and you can give there. Or, again, you can boost your career. There's something called Taproot Foundation, which recruits teams to lend people to other organizations. So you can check that out as well. Maybe you want to be a copywriter or a project manager or produce working something, or maybe help work on a website. That's a lot of work for a lot of organizations. They just don't have the resources and the time to do that.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who are retired who have tremendous skills, and rather than sit at home and be bored and be lonely, a lot of people really appreciate this great knowledge base that you have, these great skills that took a lifetime for you to develop. And what appreciation some of the younger people would have to learn from masters.
And that's so true.
Yeah.
It not only learn, but I like the word mentor.
Mentors.
Yeah,
right.
Mentor, and that's a huge one.
Mentors and masters.
And
right.
There's one here called Volunteer Match, where they basically will match what you want to do or your expertise to organizations that need that expertise. So, or you can just do a search engine and volunteer, or volunteer match. That's
and how many of you remember what you gave somebody physically, like as a gift? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but I'm sure that all of you remember some kind of an act of kindness or an act of give or some significant volunteer work that you did. That just stays in the memory bank because it lives in the heart. And again, we're wired to connect. So every time we do an act of connection, it registers emotionally, it registers physiologically, as you were talking about, because it calms the heart down. And it's mind, body, soul. And so giving is really about the mind, the body, and the soul. And it's really about reaching out to other human beings and healing human disconnect. Can't think of a nicer way to do it.
Well, and that is our show almost.
Wow.
About volunteering. Yep.
Oh.
Well, it's fast. It was a fast hour.
Yes.
We're gonna have some little fun with the song. We're gonna shrink today. I stumbled upon something on YouTube in our vast research from Bing Crosby and David Bowie, and they have a song.
I love what you sent me.
Yeah,
Walt sent me this link, and I just went.
It's on
what?
YouTube. It's on YouTube. If you really want to see it, I pulled it from YouTube. We're gonna get the audio, but see it. It's David Bowie looks really young, and of course Bing Crosby was alive. But we thought we'd do this. It was kind of fun. Peace on Earth, and it's a little drummer boy. So,
By Bing Crosby and David Bowie.
yeah, David Bowie. I don't know how much here is a shrink. We could read it real quick. Come they told me, a newborn king to see. Our finest gifts we bring. Rumpa-dum-bum-bum. Right.
So we're bringing our finest gifts to the king because we're giving to the giver.
Yes,
so,
we are.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the king, I'm imagining the newborn king is Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And so who do we honor in the world are those people who have attained that high level of unconditional love, of being givers. And so we're bringing the gifts to the giver.
Come, they told me, peace on earth, a newborn king to see. Years from now, perhaps we'll see. Our finest gifts we bring. See the day of glory. See the fine king. See the day when the men of goodwill live in peace and live in peace again.
Yeah, the men of goodwill who give, right, have the peace. They live in peace because it's born out of peace that they give in the first place, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is. So, newborn king, peace on earth, can it be? Every child must be made aware. Every child must be made to care. Care enough for his fellow man to give all the love that he can.
Because ultimately we are interconnected.
Yes. And the strongest thing on earth is unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Little baby, I pray my wish will come true. I see the child for my child and your child too. I'll take my trumpet. He'll see the day of glory. I'll play my best for him. See the day when men of goodwill live in peace again. So that's essentially the gist of Peace on Earth and Little Drummer Boy by Bing Crosby and David Bowie. So it's a fun combo for us to close the show out.
Two amazing voices.
Yes,
so we're going to
turn it on. And again, if you want to write us at info at Dr. Judy WTF, you have been listening to Dr. Judy WTF. Of course, that's What the Freud with Dr. Judy Rosenberg. She's got offices in Beverly Hills and Sherman Oaks. Or if you go on drjudywtf.com and check out her website, we can check out the mind map, and definitely your life will be changed in quicker than you think.
And also on this new website, you will see under forums on the top right the Peaceful Healing Dialogue, which we talk a lot about. And there it is, free. Just download it. It's an amazing communication skill coming into the holidays. You want to invite peace, healing, and dialogue. And so check it out.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So happy holidays, everyone, and we will catch you on the next show.
And drive safely.
Come, they told me, ba-rum-pa-pum-pum, a newborn king to see, ba-rum-pa-pum-pum. Our finest gifts we bring, ba-rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum. Peace on earth, can it be? Years from now, perhaps we'll see. Our finest the day of glory. See the day of goodwill, live in peace, so peace on earth when we come. Every child must be made aware. Every child must be made to care. I pray my wish will come true. It's for my child and your child too. He'll see the day of glory. I see the day when men of goodwill live in peace again. Peace on earth, can it be? Can it be? It's a pretty thing, isn't it?